Hey, we got a massive Warriors trade update. A new report reveals the Warriors' interest in Bucks center Bobby Portis is heating up, and we now have a potential framework for a trade that Mike Dunleavy Jr. could dangle to land one of the best shooting big men in the league. But what young talent will the Warriors need to give up? Well, in today's video, I'll break down the new report, analyze the potential trade, and discuss the impact this would have on the Warriors next year, plus why the Kevin Durant trade yesterday may open the door for all sorts of Warriors moves. First, though, I'm Arthur Ballesteros. This is Warriors Digest. We bring you daily videos breaking down everything going on with the Golden State Warriors. And if you're part of this percentage here who watches our videos on a regular basis, but you haven't subscribed, what are you waiting for? Hit the button. You get notified when new videos drop. Plus, it really helps the channel. We greatly appreciate it. And welcome to the community of over 12,000 Golden State Warriors fans so we can discuss news like this. According to Ball Report, the Golden State Warriors reportedly interested in acquiring Bobby Portis. The deal would require Portis to opt into his contract and agree to a trade. The trade framework, if pursued, the Warriors would get Bobby Portis, and the Warriors would be sending Moses Moody, Trayce Jackson-Davis, and a pick swap in the first round next year to the Milwaukee Bucks. Golden State would look to re-sign Portis after the trade, according to this report. Drop a comment right now. What do you think about the Warriors making this move for Bobby Portis? I made a video back, I think it was like a couple of weeks ago now, about the Warriors pursuing Bobby Portis, why he is the perfect fit according to the advanced metrics and math using cosine similarity. If you missed that, you can click up there in the corner. You can watch that video. It's an in-depth analysis, but basically I break down exactly why Bobby Portis is the perfect fit, and now the trade rumors are heating up. There are a couple of different ways the Warriors could acquire Bobby Portis. They could do it as he has a player option that he reportedly is going to be declining. So they could do it that way, or this route if he ends up opting into this deal and looking to sign a long-term deal with the team he gets traded to. So very interesting, but let's break this down. Like, why would the Warriors even be interested in Bobby Portis? Well, because he is a baller and a big man who can shoot the three. Averaged almost 14 points a game, 8.5 boards, 2 assists. Look at the bottom there, though. 3-point percentage as 37%, basically. He's 6'10". He shoots 43% on his corner threes. Bobby Portis is one of the best shooting big men in the league. So that is why the Warriors would want to acquire him. Obviously, he helps their spacing needs on the floor out of that 5 spot. That's something the Warriors they have in Quinten Post, but Quinten Post's defense has been very questionable, not a rim protector. Now, Bobby Portis is not a rim protector either, but as you can see in this trade here, we actually would be giving away somebody who has shown some potential of being that defensive rim protector down in the paint there. Granted, he's not great defensively yet, Trayce Jackson-Davis, but look at this deal here. Tell me what you think of this. Moses Moody and his $11.5 million deal next year, along with Trayce Jackson-Davis at about $2.2 million, 2 years left on that rookie scale deal, plus that first-round pick swap for Bobby Portis. Now, as you see in the trade machine here, it actually calculates that the Warriors end up finishing with 2 less wins by making this deal. But I promise you, they are wrong. Bobby Portis would make an amazing and an incredible impact on this Warriors team, again, with his ability to shoot the three, being able to space, being a very solid rebounder. When we look at Bobby's numbers, we have to remember that a lot of that was coming off the bench here, as he was basically the 6th man over the past few years for Milwaukee, including winning that championship a few years ago. Don't forget that. Bobby Portis has that championship pedigree as well. But what do we think about this? I don't love this deal. I would love if the Warriors were able to pursue Bobby Portis in free agency, which is going to be extremely difficult because of the Warriors salary cap situation, but not impossible here. When we look at the Warriors salary cap, we see that they have about, there's no room when it comes to the salary cap. They're already about $15 million over there. But they aren't a second apron team yet and probably won't be. So they do have some flexibility. But again, just like everything with the Warriors offseason this year, it's going to hinge around Jonathan Kuminga, what happens there, blah, 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 blah. We've heard it so many times. It's the shoe that we're waiting to drop. Just like the Kevin Durant trade was the shoe we were waiting to drop for other moves to line up. I'm going to tell you exactly why the Kevin Durant trade yesterday puts a lot of things in motion for the Warriors here. We'll get to that in just a second, but I would love for the Warriors to be able to sign him in free agency and not have to give anything up. Have Bobby Portis opt out of his deal, sign a 2 to 3 year deal with the Warriors. That's probably not going to be realistic in terms of the Warriors' salary cap situation. Now, they could potentially have the $14 million mid-level exception, but that is, again, going to depend on what happens with Jonathan Kuminga. If they end up re-signing him and not trading him, they are done signing anybody for the offseason of significance here. They're going to be looking at minimum salaries and cap and roster filler and things like that. But if he does end up getting traded here, there could be some potential flexibility in terms of being able to have some money freed up for a free agent. So not impossible. I just don't love this deal. But if I'm Mike Dunleavy Jr., I say yes to this because, and I know a lot of people are going to look at this and you're going to be like, what are you talking about? You're trading away a 23-year-old, a 24-year-old for a 30-year-old on, basically his probably last big contract that he's going to get. Why? Well, because he feels a need that the Warriors need to win in the playoffs, which is a big man who can rebound, play a little defense, shoot some threes, space the floor, and has a championship pedigree as well. That's what you get in Bobby Portis. That's what you get in this goofy guy who I think would fit great as well into the Warriors team chemistry alongside with Draymond Green. He has a fiery streak to him as well, which I think is something that is needed outside of Draymond Green on the Warriors. I know that we see that kind of cold, calculated fieriness that obviously Steph has. He's a killer. We see that in Jimmy. I think adding a guy like Bobby Portis makes a lot of sense in that regard as well. But that's a lot of youth to give up for a guy. But my argument has always been over all of this offseason is that the Warriors basically have next year to win a championship just based on the age of the players, the current roster construction. So you go for pieces that are ready to win that title and help you now. You don't wait for a Moses Moody, who could be a really solid rotational piece to a championship team a couple of years from now. You don't have that kind of time, bro. Steph is 37. He's old. Dre is old. He's had gray in his beard for years now. Jimmy Butler hurt his butt. That's how old this team is, man. We're worried about one of the biggest problems that we had towards the end of last year and the beginning of the playoffs was bruised butts, bruising our butts. This team is old, okay? They got to go for it now with a move like this to get Bobby Portis here. Now, I'm going to tell you why the Kevin Durant trade kind of changes things a little bit. Obviously, we saw this go down yesterday. Shams reported it. I would also like to say that I told you that this exact trade for Jalen Green and the 10th pick was going to go down, and I said that like 2-3 weeks ago in a video. I'll put the link up here so you can go back to that. But obviously, the Warriors were linked to Kevin Durant. I told you that that was not going to happen. Durant didn't want to come back. There was a reason why there were so many rumors about him going to Houston, so many reports of all those phone calls. Kind of like this Bobby Portis stuff, because Bobby Portis rumors have been popping up for a long time. When there's smoke, there's fire. There's something going on here. Because also, well, I'll get to this in just a second here with what Bobby Portis had to say about this, because what he says here is really telling, and I think he may have slipped up and told about something going on here. But now that Kevin Durant has been traded, this is what's interesting here is we're getting headlines here that now the Heat have interest in Kings and Warriors star after the Kevin Durant trade. Now, we've heard the name Jonathan Kuminga linked to the Heat in Chicago, but everybody was kind of waiting to see where Durant ended up to see what move they would need to make. So the Heat were heavily in pursuit of Durant and have been for the past decade, basically. They tried to sign him back in 2016 when he signed with the Warriors. They tried to get him in 2022 when he was being traded from the Brooklyn Nets to the Suns. They've been trying to get him for a while. They finally land him, or excuse me, they don't land him. The Houston Rockets get him. So now the Heat are kind of left scrambling here as to what their next option is. And so reportedly, Kuminga has been kind of their third option, but this report goes on to say that since the Heat struck out on Durant, they're expected to look in a different direction to fill a similar void. The Heat have been linked to Sacramento Kings star nowadays. I don't know about that. DeMar DeRozan. However, a new report from the Miami Herald suggests they're not targeting him and Golden State Warriors forward Jonathan Kuminga even after Sunday's blockbuster. So this report from the Miami Herald says the Heat aren't looking at these two, even though they missed out on Kevin Durant. So the two players who had been linked to Miami in published reports, Sacramento Kings forward DeMar DeRozan and Golden State Warriors impending restricted free agent Jonathan Kuminga, had not been the focus of Heat discussions as of Sunday afternoon, the sources said. So we know that other teams have been linked to Kuminga here in terms of the Chicago Bulls. So the biggest trade pieces that have been talked about with the Bulls when it comes to Kuminga is their center, Nikola Vucevic, who is also another 6'10 guy who can grab you 9-10 boards a night, score 18 points, shoots almost 40% from three, probably the best shooting big man who could potentially be available here. So that could change things with how the Warriors start to proceed with Bobby Portis. But if the Warriors are targeting Bulls guard Colby White, then that could be a different story. There could be two moves made here where the Warriors make a move sending Kuminga to get White and then make a separate move sending Moody and Trayce Jackson-Davis over to get Bobby Portis. Or the Warriors could trade for Vucevic in Chicago and end up they don't need to make that move for Portis. There's a lot that could happen here, but this Durant trade basically sets everything else in motion here. But these rumors about this Bobby Portis trade have been coming up for quite a while here. And he actually, I don't know if you saw this, it happened a few days ago where he responded to the rumors of the Warriors trying to get him when these rumors first started to break a couple of weeks ago when I made that video there. He basically was like, yo, who is talking about this? He was like, my first thought when it comes to seeing these reports is, how do these people know so much? How do these insiders know these things so fast? Who's behind the scenes calling and checking in on all this? He also went on to say, I don't know if there's someone on each team that calls and tells people things. I don't know. Shams and all those guys that have to report these things that are happening. I don't know if I would want to do that as my job. I wouldn't want to stay up all night by my phone and check in with guys at 3 a.m. That's a tough one to have. But now I will say here that it's very interesting that Bobby basically admitted, he's like, how do these insiders know these things are happening and how do they know it so fast? That was all in regards to the chatter about him being sent to the Warriors. So it is very interesting. I do think that this one has a lot of legs to it and that the Warriors could have a really good shot at landing Bobby, whether it be in free agency if all of the chips fall properly, or if they decide to dangle a couple of young up-and-coming players for Bobby Portis. I want to hear what you think. Do you think Bobby Portis makes sense on this team? I'll tell you, he does. Absolutely, he is the best fit. Again, I'm going to point you to that video breakdown I made of him and show you how all the math and analytics just point to the fact that he is the perfect stretch big for this team. But I want to hear what you have to say. I mean, analysis is just as good as the math sometimes. Your eyes can sometimes tell you things that the numbers don't and vice versa. So what do you think? Drop your comment below and I'll keep you updated if anything changes here. Peace.